What would you say if you met someone who had experienced 12 miracles? You might be tempted to say, what has he got that I ain't got? Let's find out. Charles Sathmary comes to us from Oakville, Ontario, a competitive runner all your life. Your dream was to be an Olympic runner. But then on a wintry night, 1992, your whole world changed forever.
It did. I was on a training run and I slipped on some ice. Instead of falling down like anyone else would do, I hyperextended my knee and I went to see the doctors. We tried to rehab it for a while. It was decided that I had to have surgery, so I did. Had the surgery, came out of surgery. My wife noticed something was a little off. However, the doctor still thought that I was okay to go home, sent me home.
Weren't you turning a little blue?
I was blue, and that's the reason for the concern. However, the doctor still sent me home, and 14 hours later, I had a massive stroke. I was rushed to the hospital, and in which I was having another stroke at that time. So it was just a very bad situation, a very scary situation. While I was laying on the stretcher in the emergency ward, being hooked up to all these devices, I could feel myself. There was something wrong, terribly wrong, and the doctor was telling my wife that the chances are that I wouldn't survive until the morning. And I knew that, as I said, something was terribly wrong. And my last audible words were not to the doctors to help me or to my wife that I loved her, but my last audible words were, "Sweet Jesus, save me." And at that moment, an incredible peace came upon me. And I heard somebody, as if somebody was standing right in front of me saying, "You will be well." And that peace just magnified, and I couldn't begin to describe how that felt. But I just gave myself over to it. I trusted in the words that I heard. And even at that point, when I said that, all the monitors started beeping and clicking, and the doctors started looking at things, and they revised their prognosis that if I did survive till morning, chances are I would never walk again, I would never talk again, that my wife would most likely end up feeding me my meals. So it was a very scary situation.
What a drama. There's so many layers to this. I mean, you called out to Jesus. Had you had any dealings with Jesus in your life?
Really not a lot. We went to Sunday school as children. My parents took us to Sunday school, but other than that, I had no connection with church or God. I knew of God, I knew of Christ because of being in Sunday school, but other than that. So it was really unusual for me to call to God, especially at that point. I remember
your wife said, "Why did you say that?"
She said that the next day. She said, "Why did you say that?" I said, "I have no idea why I said that. It just came out."
How wonderful.
And I knew that something had changed at that point.
And you actually heard the words, "You will be well."
I heard the words, "You will be well." It was just like we're talking right now. If you said to me, "You would be well," I heard those words as clear as...
Goodness, and you felt you were dying. You thought, this is it.
It is very terrifying when you're laying there and your body is going cold, and you know you cannot move a part of your body when your mind is trying to tell your body to do something and it doesn't. It is a very scary thing. And when you feel your body going cold and you hear the doctor saying you're not going to survive, it is not a very good situation to be in for anyone. And that's the reason it's remarkable that I didn't tell my wife that I loved her, that I just called out to God.
God has put eternity in every heart. There's that intuitive knowing. There's something beyond. Well, I love that you got back walking again, actually. The doctors must have been stunned. And something very unusual about your walks. Where did you find yourself landing?
Well, when I was able to walk, I would go out of the house because they wanted me to exercise and keep the muscles going. So every time I'd stop and look up, I'd be in front of a church. Even when I purposely went out and said, I am not going to stop in front of a church, I would stop, I'd look up, there was a church.
God had really interesting ways of drawing you into a relationship that you didn't really know yet, but the change in you. At the time, you had 3 companies, visual arts, fashion and hair industry. You got into TV commercials and programming. The vice president of Revlon was a little shocked at the new Charles that he saw.
He was. They were so used to me yelling and screaming when I was doing all this production work that they felt if I wasn't yelling and screaming, it wasn't going to be a good show. And I was so calm, and he came up to me and said, "I'm really bothered by the fact that you're not yelling at anyone." And I said, "Don't worry, everything's going to be fine." And they had a fabulous...
It'll still be good.
It'll still be good. Actually, they had a better show than I was even anticipating, so it really worked out well for them.
Oh, well, amazingly, we're at 3 miracles. 12 for this guy. So more alarming signs and symptoms in Charles' journey when we come back.